Monday, everybody, and welcome back to the Couchside Judges. I'm Scott Fontana. Follow me on Twitter at Scott_Fontana.
And I'm Dan Urban. Follow me at the Dan Urban. Follow the podcast at Couchside Judges. Subscribe to us on YouTube, Apple, Spotify. You know the deal by now.
I won't lie, for a heartbeat, it sounded like you almost forgot who you were. It was just like a split second.
I didn't remember if we did our full name.
No,
so I was like,
but you know what? But you know what you can do? You can read the full 5 pages of the MMA judging criteria.
Yes, please read that.
Yeah, do it. And remember your full name.
Yes.
Well, sir, we're coming off of a lull in the schedule.
A 1-week lull.
We won't get many of them for a while. It's going to be like 2 months of fights again, which, you know, it's cool. And it's also not at the same time because it can drag. But there are a lot of good fights coming up. I think the pay-per-views in particular are looking really strong in the next coming months, all the way through UFC 300. So at least there's that, right?
Yep, UFC 300.
Now you didn't.
Being
now you had your plan set in mind anyway. So like you actually probably welcomed the break for a different reason, so that you got to watch Royal Rumble.
Yes, I watched the Royal Rumble, so I still had combat sports-ish.
Adjacent.
Yeah, that was Rumble's always fun.
Was this a good one? I don't, like I said, I don't watch, as you know.
The whole Vince stuff kind of, I think, ruined some plans.
What do you think was supposed to happen?
I'm pretty sure Brock was supposed to be involved, but then it, whatever came out with the Vince stuff ended that.
How is Brock involved in that?
You'd have to read that whole complaint. Like he's involved. He's like one of the people like during negotiations. I think Vince was like, "Hey, I got this girl."
Oh,
type
super.
Deal.
Didn't realize that.
I think it's like that. I mean, I really didn't read the details. I saw some of the the text messages that Vince said, and it's absurd, disgusting, really. I
believe it. I only just saw the story happening. I haven't dug into it. I just know he's out, and I know that it's just more disgusting this from him.
So basically there was no surprises, that you typically get with the Rumble. Okay. And I think it was like, let's just get through tonight. And we'll move on from it.
Sure.
Hopefully. But it was still enjoyable, still a fun match.
Did X-Pac finally win?
No.
Oh, that's too bad.
He was not in there.
What about Rikishi?
I was hoping he'd be a surprise, but like I just said, there was no surprises. His 2 sons.
I know his kids do it. I know
his kids were the first 2, the brothers.
Oh, they were.
Yeah, and they don't like each other.
There's like is it Jason and Jimmy?
Jimmy and Jey Uso. Yeah.
Hey, okay, that was close. Who's the better one? Who's the one people like?
Jay.
Did he win? I mean, not win the whole thing, but he went better.
He went deep. He didn't win though. Yeah.
Did the brothers fight each other, or were they just kind of like chilling?
They fought each other.
Are they like on opposite sides right now?
Yeah, they're opposite sides at the moment.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Shows what I know. I know nothing. Yeah. How about Ronda Rousey? She win the women's one?
She didn't show up.
She didn't. What the heck?
No.
She had other stuff to do?
Had other things.
I'll bet you it wasn't fight MMA again.
Definitely not. No,
that's never happening. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have much more I can offer about the Royal Rumble.
Till next year.
I thought Austin got screwed when they tried to have Vince McMahon win it that one year.
I don't remember that one too much.
That was the one where Vince was supposed to go in at the same time as Austin, and then they both like ran off for most of the event and then came back.
Oh, and I remember that.
Yeah,
that was, I think Maven. Well, they never even gotten eliminated in that one. Like he just got
Maven
beaten.
was not a person that one because I watched this one and I didn't watch Maven.
Oh, okay. Then I'm thinking of a different one.
The only reason I know Maven is because you told me about Maven.
Oh, I got stories about Maven. All right.
Yes, you did. But anyway, this is probably more pro wrestling than most of our listeners really care.
Yeah, you're all tuned out by now.
There's not a lot of judging that goes on in pro. You know what they do? They should add judges to the wrestling matches. If it goes a little long, you just like stop it and it's like, all right, who won the fight or who won the match, right?
That would be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Add another wrinkle to it.
It would. It would. Do you think they would be like trying to would the fix be in? Do you think they'd be like trying to make things happen?
Oh, for sure. Judges? Absolutely.
Are you sure? I don't know. That's questioning the integrity of World Wrestling Entertainment.
Wow.
I don't know. That's some shadiness there. Anyway, we don't have any live fights that we were going to talk about. I know that Octagon did open scoring this weekend. Did not get the chance to check it out myself. But it is cool that they're doing that now.
All right.
Yeah.
Do you know a general consensus how it went? Were people for it, against it?
I had not gotten the chance to dig deep into it. I kind of just got tipped off to it that it actually had happened this weekend. I kind of missed it.
Okay.
Fell under my radar this week because of other stuff that was going on. But yeah, it's always interesting to hear when a promotion, and it's starting to happen more often. And the fact that it's now happening in Europe too, it's interesting because we've seen open scoring with Octagon. We've seen it with Invicta when they're in Kansas. We've seen it in Colorado. We've seen it with Combate in Florida at their studio. They do their own little weird version of it too. There's a lot of it going around, and to be honest, it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of people that are freaking out about it or super excited about it. It just seems like it's a thing that exists, and we kind of accept it and we move on. So I feel like all the people that used to be like, open scoring doesn't work, it's terrible, and then all the people who are like, open scoring is amazing, we need it, they're both wrong.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't. It's not. Yeah, whatever.
It really should just be a tool for the fighters and coaches anyway. So, like, realistically, that's all I ever wanted it to be. If it helps the fighters and the coaches, I'm good with it.
Yeah, whatever.
There you go. That's the spirit. But because we don't have any live fights that we're actually going to be talking about otherwise, we are going to dip back into the past judgment pool, and we're actually going to do an appeal edition. So, as we've done before, when we do past judgments, we look at old fights and we kind of rescore them under our little scoring format, which is only a little bit different. Dan will go into the details of that in a moment, but we also do some version of that called the appeal edition. And that is where we go back to some of the past judgments we did in the very early days of the show when we were a little less, maybe even a lot less educated on the application of the scoring criteria to a fight. So we'll go back to a fight like that and say, okay, now that we know a little bit better, why don't we go back one more time for real, not for play, and we'll see what we think it would be under our scoring format this time. Would it change the result? Would it create a more lopsided score? What would happen? I like doing these. I think they're interesting. I know sometimes you get a little burned out by it. I hope you don't mind doing this one again. This was a decent fight.
This one was okay.
The fight that we selected was the first of the two Tyron Woodley versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson 5-round championship battles over the welterweight championship. The better of the two, I should say. The second one was terrible. We don't need to get into that one. But the first one came about because the second one came about because the first one was a draw. We're going to be tasking ourselves with finding out if our system can determine a clear winner.
We can do that, yeah. I had to ask you. I had to ask you which I said, is this the bad one?
No, why would I do that to you?
I don't know. I was just making sure.
Honestly, if I was gonna pick a bad fight for us, I'd probably brief you. I'd be like, "Yo, let's do this really bad fight. Let's do like Gray Maynard against Clay Guida."
Actually, you know what? What's funny? You mentioned Clay. You mentioned Clay Guida.
I did do that, yeah.
A few days ago, I got like one of those memory notifications of something you posted, of what I posted.
Okay.
And it was like, I don't forget. I don't remember exactly what I said. I think I said something would be like, it would be tragic if Guida got this decision. And then I look at the date and have to go look back and see which fight it was. It was Guida versus Hayoki. And Guida,
Hayoki, yeah.
And Guida won by split decision. I'm like, oh boy, I guess I gotta look and see.
Maybe we should watch that fight.
So one day I might go and rewatch that one. I don't recall anything about it. So.
You know, sometimes I think to myself, I'm like, I should just go back and watch some of the, because I have like a big master list of like, maybe we could go back on these fights, and I'm not sure. So, you know, for different reasons, whether it was lopsided, whether it was close, whether we think it could be a different result or something like that. So I should probably just go back and watch them from time to time. Just be like, could we do this one or not? But I don't know. We're here. We're doing this one. Let's not belabor the point. Let's dive into this, Dan. So let's at least brief everybody how the CSJ system works.
Yeah, we score using the ABC criteria based on effective striking and grappling and the 3Ds, damage, dominance, and duration. A 10-9 is a round where neither fighter checks off a D to a strong degree. A 10-8 can be considered for 1D but must be given when 2Ds are achieved. A 10-7 can be considered for 2Ds but must be given for all three. The rare 10-10 is for partial rounds and basically a staring contest. And we've eliminated effective aggression and area control because it's extremely rare judges would use these anyway. All right, Scott, set it up. Woodley Thompson won.
So, again, this was a fight that we talked about before in the early days. In fact, it was episode 6. We're on episode 277 now. That was almost 4 years ago. It's actually been longer since we watched it for the show the first time than from the time we watched it back then all the way back to the time it started. So it's been a longer gap between watches for this one, funny enough.
Yeah.
This was at UFC 205. The first foray into New York after it got sanctioned, November 12th, 2016, Madison Square Garden. I was in the building. I was up on the Chase Bridge. You were not. You were watching from home.
Because
I was on the Chase Bridge. So that's like high up. So for people who don't know, that's like you're up in the sort of the rafters in a sense.
Once again, a Madison Square Garden event for the UFC was unaffordable. Is that a word?
What do you mean once again? It was the first time.
But everything over the course of this show, it boils down to one thing. If Dan wants to be an MSG, it ain't happening because it's impossible to get in there for a decent seat.
I'll give you
so
that.
Expensive.
I'll tell you, it would have been pretty cool to be at this one just because the atmosphere in that building for Conor was pretty remarkable.
I can care less about the atmosphere if I can't see the two ants fighting.
That's true. That's a good point. They do a lot of screens around.
Well, I might as well stay at home and watch on TV then. I got to watch on a screen.
I agree. Just pointing it out. Yeah. But at any rate, yeah, this was actually the co-main event right before Conor fought. And of course, most people remember this because it was when Conor became champ. But this fight was actually the fight of the night, Woodley Thompson #1. This was Woodley's first title defense, having won it 4 months earlier from Robbie Lawler, knocked him out. Wonder Boy came in here on a 7-fight win streak, all the momentum in the world. This is him at the peak of his powers. Early in the year, had beaten Rory McDonald, got a decision, and back on Super Bowl weekend, like we're talking about, had knocked out Johnny Hendricks.
Yeah, back when Super Bowl weekend was cool for the UFC, where they're like, oh, we're going to put a huge fight together. Now they do nothing. They just put whatever they want together. No big fights.
What if just every Super Bowl weekend we just watched Wonder Boy Thompson knock out Johnny Hendricks? Nothing against Johnny. It's a solid knockout.
They could have done something big, especially for this one with the Super Bowl in Vegas.
Yeah.
No, just a regular Apex card we're getting.
Speaking of Vegas, the odds for this fight had Wonder Boy, the challenger, a -200 favorite.
Yeah, 2-1.
Giant favorite for a challenger. That is zero respect for the champ.
No respect at all.
Kind of impressive. I can't remember the last time a champion was that much of an underdog.
Oh, it had to be Amanda Nunes and Juliana Pena.
Was she even that big? I don't remember.
No, she was I think she was in the 300s.
Or maybe, you know what? Thinking back, it's possible that it was Leon Edwards against Kamaru Usman.
Oh, maybe that too, yeah.
Don't remember. I don't remember the odds on that one. Neither here nor there. The judges for this one, Derek Cleary, Douglas Crosby, and Glenn Trowbridge. In 7 years, we now have only one of those judges working more regularly these days. The referee, still working regularly, Tandem Mergliata. And unlike some of the fights that we go back to and rewatch, we do have all the scores for this one, which is great.
You like to have those.
You do. But anything kind of 2016 onward, especially, we're good because I've got the giant spreadsheet now. Not that this was not known at the time anyway. This was an interesting one. A lot of people were really talking about the scoring for this one for reasons that we'll get into. Coming up starting right now. Why don't you start with round 1? What happened here?
Yeah, feeling out process for the first 2 minutes. Wonder Boy's throwing some kicks that are blocked. About 3 minutes left. Woodley catches one of those kicks, gets a takedown off it right into top half guard. He's landing some body shots, some punches and elbows to the head. Nothing too damaging. It's not until like the final 20 seconds or so where Wonder Boy starts to use his butterfly hook to get up and, in the transition gets busted open with an elbow. And then after the 10-second clacker goes off, Woodley just starts dropping some big elbows. Wonder Boy's busted open. I was only at a 9 until Wonder Boy, got actually some good damage on him. So then I went to the 8.
I think you can always check off 1 here. I think we've got some duration because there's really nothing happening from Wonder or from Thompson whatsoever, but there's a sustained period on the ground where Woodley is in control here. Not as dominant as you'd like to see necessarily, but I think he's basically having his way with this fighter. He's just not doing as much as he should. So I'm okay checking 1D here. And I do think because of that damage, it's not like a giant D. So it's not like a second D there, but I think because we've got 1D, you can consider the second. So that's why I did move up like you to the 8 from the 9.
All right.
Funny enough, though, I had the same score. I had an 8 when we did this last time. You actually had a 7.
Yeah, well, I'm an idiot.
No, we were still forming this thing, man. We didn't know what we were talking about. You weren't an idiot. We were both idiots.
Well, no, I was an idiot. This is not a 10-8 in real MMA today.
No, it's certainly not. I think we are watching here a fight that I would have. If we were looking at this like for real and the actual scoring and not our CSJ system, we would be giving this a 9, right?
Yeah,
I think so. I think that's fair. Which is the score. That was the majority score. That was what was given by Judges Cleary and Trowbridge, the 10-9 for Woodley. It was Doug Crosby who gave Woodley an 8 here, and as we know, Doug kind of has his own system. So
yeah, not an 8.
There's that. This was an 8 because it was, I guess.
But not an 8.
No, but we'll revisit the concept of 8s and 9s later on.
Okay.
Foreshadowing, but not here. Round 2 is going to be a little less so.
Again, a feeling out for a little while. Not as long as this time. Not as long this time as the first round, but Wonderboy lands a good combo to the head, which leads to him being clinched, pushed up against the fence. They exchange some knees. Woodley, I think, it has the slight edge at this point. The turning point in this round comes when Wonderboy lands a spin kick to the body, and from there he starts to touch Woodley up pretty good. I think it's pretty clear for Wonderboy, but he didn't really check any Ds off, but it's 10-9.
Yeah, I'm with you too. I think he takes it to a close but clear degree, but also in a round that honestly just did not have a crazy ton of landed action, right? Like I don't think this was a boring round or anything like that, because you felt like there was kind of like a little bit of tension still. It was an interesting engagement, right? And you also have a guy who lost the first round coming back and starting to look good in the second round, so there was something happening here. But I also kind of just have to give it to Thompson here. It's just Woodley really just didn't get enough done.
Yeah, Woodley's not a good score here.
No, but none of the judges gave it that way either. We had 10-9s just like all the judges did. And that was our score last time too. We also gave this a 10-9. We weren't that crazy. So we have at this point 19-18 in favor of Tyron Woodley because he got the 10-8 on our card last time. The actual judges' scores, we now have Cleary and Trowbridge tied at 19 apiece, which I think, again, that would be our score for real. Doug Crosby actually has our score, which is not what we would give in the real system. So it is what it is there. Round 3.
Yeah, pretty good round for Wonderboy. Competitive round here. I think I definitely feel like he outstruck Woodley. No matter, I don't care what the stats say. I think the stats said they were even, like 17-17 or something.
The stats on the broadcast are kind of useless.
Right.
When you look back at what they did for UFCstats.com is like completely different from there.
I thought both guys landed some good leg kicks, no matter how much Joe Rogan was calling for one from Woodley. It's like he is throwing some, Joe. There is some coming. More so on the Wonderboy side.
He gets in a groove. You know how he goes.
But I thought Woodley answered with some shots to the head, but it just wasn't enough towards the end. Close round. But I sided with Wonderboy 10-9.
Do you think you go the other way? Like, can you get the other way?
I think you might be able to.
It's not a total stretch.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Not a complete stretch.
There's not enough happening, but like, you know, I will say I agree with you who won. I think this is a 10-9 Thompson round. I feel better about a Thompson score than a Woodley score, but one that, depending on what was said, I could understand it. You know, I could sort of see it. And the judges were split here. This was the only round in which the judges were actually split on who won the round, because, and for the record, we had 10-9 Thompson last time we did this too. But the two judges seeing it our way for Thompson were Judges Cleary and Crosby, whereas Judge Trowbridge saw this one for Woodley. Okay, not so bad, but I mean, you never know. Maybe cage side, it could look a little different, of course. And there's just not a whole lot happening. Maybe that leg kick, especially the one that Joe really liked, I would say. Maybe that one landed much harder. Maybe maybe there was reward for the other leg. I don't know.
Yeah.
Not a big deal, though. So at this point, the actual judges' scorecards, we now have a 29-28 for Thompson coming from Derek Cleary. We have 29-28 for Woodley coming from Judge Trowbridge. And Doug Crosby has it at 28 apiece. Through 3 rounds, we are at a split draw. That's unusual. We also have a split draw on our cards for the CSJ system at 28 apiece. But again, it's not exactly how we would have scored it in the real system. This is just for our our little different way of doing things. And, you know, we'd like to see if the result could change, right? Because of the way things go, like we mentioned at the top of the show. And round 4 kind of qualifies as something that might start pushing us that way, right?
Yeah. Wonder Boy, he's doing pretty good on the feet here. And then he gets caught with a right hand and gets dropped by Woodley briefly. He popped right back up. Didn't seem like it was, too much damage. He had his wits about him. But the second knockdown was bad.
That was a rough one.
He was close to being out there. Woodley's on top of him, dropping big elbows, big damage, and then Woodley, they work back up to the feet, and he's stuck in a guillotine, super tight arm-in guillotine for like a minute and 15 seconds. It seemed like final minute of the round. Wonder Boy's able to escape. He's on top. He's landing some strikes, nothing are really all that strong. Woodley's firing back, while he's on the ground from his back. I don't think Wonder Boy earns back the 8, so I'm at a 7.
Yeah, I don't think he comes close to earning back the 8. I mean, this is a real solid 10-7 in our system. This is a real good 10-7 in our system. You've got several, potential fight ending actions taking place here between the big knockdown, the lesser knockdown, and again the choke, which for a little while looked good, and then for a little while he kind of lost steam on it, right? Which is obviously why it didn't work out. But I think all told, all of that can't be erased from Thompson finally finding a little bit of offense in there near the end. He misses a lot of that stuff too. A lot of the things he's throwing just kind of whiff, or they like deflect or whatever. So there's just not that much happening from Thompson that you could say, okay, he's got to get this one back. He earned it back from that 8, like you were saying. Didn't happen. This is a 7. This is a CSJ 7. We both agree. We had it that way last time too. So maybe we weren't that dumb,
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, I would definitely be an 8 today.
This should be an 8 today, absolutely, because the damage is so high too. I think this would be the type of round where judges would look at it and say, well, this is what we want an 8 to be. There's good damage here. Not necessarily the case at the time, because the 8 was the minority score. And while it was Judge Crosby who gave the 8 in round 1 for a round that maybe was more borderline, he only gave a 9 this time, the majority score, alongside Judge Trowbridge. Only Derek Cleary gave the 10-8 at that time. The key thread that holds this together, though, we still have Derek Cleary working a lot of fights.
That's good.
We don't see those other gentlemen anymore nearly as much. You got Doug Crosby at the end of last year in one of the major shows in PFL. Judge Trowbridge, I don't believe judges anymore. I think he's moved on from it.
Okay.
Yeah. I imagine that was on his own terms, but we're at the point where I think there might have been a schism in the way. Maybe this is around the time that the criteria changed, right? Maybe there's some sort of schism between kind of the old school way of doing it and the new school way of doing it, and someone like Derek Cleary was more at the forefront of moving towards that way. I'm just kind of speculating on why we got that, right? Because it doesn't really make a lot of sense to give a 9 here and an 8 over there.
Old school versus new school doesn't matter with this much inconsistency.
Yeah.
You go 8-1, you got to go 8-4. If you go 9,
I think absolutely.
You go 9-9, you got that old school new school argument. I'm fine with that.
Yeah. This is just weird. It's almost like there's like buyer's remorse for the first round going that way. I don't know if that was the way, but again, Doug Crosby has expressed that he is his own little way of doing things, right?
Apparently, yeah.
I'm familiar with the way most judges do things. I can't speak to the way Judge Crosby does it, or did it, as this was many years ago. But at any rate, our score in the CSJ system, because we gave Woodley a 10-7 in a fight that was otherwise tied at that point, he's now at 38-35. This is a commanding lead, and it requires Thompson to come back with something just as strong. Achievable, but hard. In the actual scores, the actual real scores that we got from the judges here, we're now at 38-37 Woodley from Judges Cleary and Crosby, which realistically, this is the right score, I think, through 4 rounds. I think that's the acceptable score through 4 rounds. So again, Crosby got there in a weird way. He still got there, it is what it is. For Judge Trowbridge to be at 39-37 Woodley, it's less about the fact that they have the different number of round wins, but the fact that there's no 8s in here is still kind of strange. But all the judges do have Woodley winning, just as we do, going into the 5th and final round. So what's happening in this round?
Well, Woodley has no gas left at all. He's running on.
Nope.
He's running on fumes.
He burned himself out with like 1 minute to go in the last round.
It's similar to round 3 where Wonder Boy's the one out striking him. He's just doing it to a larger degree. Not big shots or checking off any Ds. I think Woodley landed a few decent shots, but nothing great. Nothing that you're gonna say he won the round for. This is an easy Wonder Boy round. He needed to fight to finish though, to get beyond the 9. He just didn't get anything beyond that for me.
I don't think he outclassed him in the striking to such a degree where you'd even consider that to be an 8. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a high degree of volume difference there, but again, like you mentioned, there's just not a whole lot of pop on these things where you say, okay, he's really hurting him. I have a 9. It's just a clear 9 to me, no matter what system.
Mm-hmm.
So that puts you and I as our final scores, 47-45, Tyron Woodley in the CSJ system. The judges that night, they also agreed this is a 10-9 Thompson. No shenanigans, no funny business. This is, like I said, a 9 in any system. And Woodley still wins, or not Woodley. It's a majority draw. Woodley retains because it's a majority draw. Keeps his title. Judges Cleary and Crosby have 47-47, which realistically, that's the way you gotta. I think you mostly would score this fight.
Yeah.
Again, we can allow for round 3 maybe as a swing round. That's not so bad. We do have 48-47 Woodley from Judge Trowbridge. And, short of there being another 8 in there, I think that's an okay score, But what I like about it, Dan, and I think you do too, is the fact that this system really rewarded the much bigger rounds that were coming from Woodley.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't win as many, but he won to a higher degree in those rounds. And I think that's what ought to be rewarded to a higher degree than it is. This felt like a fight that he really kind of came away having done more work to his opponent, right? He took a lot of time off, but realistically, like Stephen Thompson was worse for the wear.
Yeah, even though Wonder Boy won the majority of the rounds, he just wasn't to the degree, like you said. It's like any other sport. Any team can win 3 close quarters, and then that 4th quarter, they lose by a large degree, and they lose the whole match because of it. I mean, I think it should be more attainable scores.
I think so too, and I think this fight in particular is like a crucial example of why having a greater, more liberal use of the 8s and the 7s, the way we do it, which is basically all it is. We're just making the 7 be more achievable and allowing the 8 to be kind of that middle range, right?
Mm-hmm.
The so-called 8.5 that some judges are familiar with, right? I like it. I think it would have saved us from a second terrible fight between these two, which would have been nice. And then who knows? The whole entire welterweight division changes as a result of this. It would have been nice because I don't think they would have run it back if Woodley wins 47-45.
No, they don't run this back. I mean, I don't even think they needed to run it back after watching it.
Probably not.
I mean, we saw the 2 rounds that Woodley won, and we saw the 3 that Thompson won. They're not the same thing. Like Woodley should have came out of there thinking, okay, I think I won this round. I won this fight.
He probably did.
Because
I don't remember, but I'm sure to agree he felt happy enough with it because he did deal out more damage.
Yep.
Name of the game is damage and trying to finish your opponent.
Or maybe we don't let draws stand at the end. We go to overtime. We allow that. We rewrite the law and we do that.
Or let me bring up another idea to you. What if you suffer a cut in round 1, you always lose rounds 2, 3, 4, and 5 as long
obviously.
Because Thompson would have lost every round at this point.
Obviously, that's what should have happened. You're right. I
think that's the way to go. I think we can thank MMA scoring pioneer Dominic Cruz for that because that's the right way. It's the way to go.
It is the way to go.
All right, but yeah, this is definitely a game-changing fight for our scoring system. I like this one.
Yeah, this was actually good for our scoring.
Absolutely. But that's it. Any more thoughts on this one before we move on?
No.
And let's never talk about that second fight again. That one stunk. On to next weekend, my friend. We are back with live fights. Like we said, it's here until forever. They are at the UFC Apex. So this is UFC Vegas 85. Get ready for that hashtag. Saturday coming up. It's a 7 p.m. Eastern time main card start.
It's probably my most excited thing about it.
Yes, you do like that. Funny enough, I don't know if I told you what I'm going to be doing this coming weekend, but I'm taking my my son on a Cub Scout trip that night. So I'm actually going to be missing the fights live entirely.
Oh, okay.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
This card doesn't really excite me. There's a few fights I want to say. I do like the main event, not as a main event, but I like it as a fight. Roman Dolidze against Nasruddin Imavov at middleweight.
All right.
I like Dolidze. Dolidze's interesting. Middleweight is what it is, but I do think Dolidze is an interesting contender in there. So I'd like to see what he does here.
Okay.
I'm also very interested, and I think you are too, because he's starting to be one of your guys, right?
He is one of my guys. Money Moicano.
I don't believe he fought last year, actually, if I'm not mistaken.
He was out.
So
he was out all year.
Fight back since the Garden the year before. He's got Drew Dober, who is also coming back from his first fight since the Garden, but just a few months ago. Or no, it wasn't the Garden. It was actually he was in Newark.
Okay.
I'm mistaking it because I was thinking I was there. I was in person, but no, it was Newark, not New York.
Gotcha.
Or as I say it, Newark.
It's Newark. Yeah.
Newark. I say it like it's Nork.
Newark.
Yeah.
Newark.
Like Mork and Mindy, but Nork and Nindy.
Newark. We're saying the same thing.
We are, but some people say Newark.
Newark.
All right, we gotta stop this. We're gonna drive everybody away. There's also I like this fight too. Randy Brown against Muslim Salikov.
Yep.
Some fun Sando in there, maybe.
Yeah, it should be a good one.
Randy Brown, rude boy, coming to bang, 170 pounds. I like that fight.
Yeah.
Anything else that we missed?
No, I think that's it.
There's decent fights on here, but there's nothing that like jumped out at me on here. Probably this will be an amazing card, and I'll have to catch up on something amazing when I get back from the little trip with my buddy. But I will say, for contested rounds candidate, my most likely candidate this week is Gilbert Arena against Charles Radke. Now, Dan, why did I pick this fight?
You randomly said it.
Yeah, that's correct. I said, let's pick a random fight and see how it goes. And of course, I picked a fight at 170 pounds, which is the least likely to have judging disagreement, but I did it anyway.
Good for you.
Eyes in the face. Let's see how it goes. Sometimes you gotta live dangerously.
All right. We'll be back again with contested rounds. Hope you enjoyed this edition of Passion Judgment.
I did. I like going back to this fight. This is fun.
Yeah, this was a good one for our score system.
A win for the CSJ.
Thanks for listening.
Take care, y'all.